Looks like a rat hole here. G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and last season, or about 9 months ago, I uploaded a video called What Happens If You Surface Lay Potatoes Instead of Bury Them. It was an experiment and the results were very interesting, and I encourage you to watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. In this video, I used the leftover potatoes from that same last harvest, but this time I buried them in this exact same bed, just to see if there's a difference. Let's get into it. Now, before I get into digging all these spuds up to see how much of a crop we got, I'll take you through exactly how I prepared this bed, because as you can imagine, it was pretty depleted after that last crop of potatoes, so you have to at least zhuzh that bed up a little bit for the new crop to give them any chance of growing well. So to start off with, the soil had sunk down, and that was mainly because I had built this bed on a base of banana waste as a green fill, knowing full well that the bed would sink over time. What I didn't anticipate though was that I would get these banana plants growing through them. I tell you what, we've got the toughest banana plants in the world, I reckon. So as I was getting more soil and refurbishing the bed, I was also digging out as much bananas as I could so that it wouldn't grow too much and outcompete the potatoes. The other thing that made it a bit uncomfortable was the fact that we'd had a really wet and boggy summer. I really like these Alu Zinc beds from Birdies. They're easy to put together, they're extremely strong, and they last for decades. They're made in Australia, so obviously you can get them here, but you can also get them in the US and New Zealand, and now South Africa. That's right, the home of the braai. You could have a braai and you could put one of these together faster than your braai can cook. That's for sure. I don't carry a grudge. A grudge is somewhere I park my car. 5% off if you use the codes below in the description. And because I'm an affiliate, I get a small commission on a sale, and that just helps me to keep making videos. Because the bed had sunk down so much, I needed to put some extra soil in, and what I did was I actually stole some soil from another garden bed up in the top because I wanted to empty that bed out. I thought I'd do another experiment and fill it full of straw and make a straw raised garden bed. I then wanted to add some nutrients, of course, and what I did was I added some Vegemate. I haven't used this much in the past. Rock minerals, especially if you've got a fully organic mix of soil, can lack some of those minerals and nutrients, and so far I've been finding that that's been doing really well in my experiments this past season. I also added some organic fertilizer. It's called Organic Extra from Queensland Organics. Again, this is a company that's native to Queensland, Australia. I like to use local stuff if I can, and you can also get it from ALS, Australian Landscaping Supplies, if you are local, and I have an affiliatization with them as well. Not to overwhelm you with trying to sell you things, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying there's an opportunity for you to get a discount if you go through ALS, especially if you're local. Why not if you're going to purchase some rock dust or organic fertilizer anyway? But if you're not local, what you can do is you can source out companies that are local to you. And of course, the last line of defense is you can get organic fertilizer for free if you've got good sources of animal manures, and making your own compost will help that too. I dug those extra supplements into the topsoil just so that I could mix it in a little bit so that it wouldn't just sit on top and then when you watered, it run off and go down the gaps of the side of the bed. It's much better if you just give it a slight dig in. You don't have to disturb the soil too much, but in this case, because I topped the whole bed up with soil anyway, it was all fairly loose and dug in. And I have to say, when you're planting potatoes, it does help to have a bit of a loose topsoil so that you can plant them in and give room for those potatoes to expand their tubers. With the planting and the sowing, I use small potatoes saved from last season's crop. I kept these small ones in a cool, dry place for about 5 months so I could plant them at the right time of year for our subtropical climate, which is typically winter. You can sow potatoes through autumn, but you just can't grow them through summer in a subtropical climate. So sowing potatoes, say now in spring, is probably not a good idea because they won't mature enough by the time this hot, humid weather hits. There were plenty of tiny spuds, so I wasn't sure how well they would grow or if they would be strong enough to have the energy to grow into a decent potato plant. Therefore, I sowed the potatoes close together, which is typically a bad thing because if they all grow well, the plants will compete and the harvest size will be smaller tubers. And I also had some supermarket variety potatoes that had gone green, and I sowed them in this other bed adjacent to this one, but we won't be digging them up today. I'll make that into a totally separate video. At 3 weeks, most of the potatoes had sprouted and were growing well. At 5 weeks, I was keeping the water up to the potatoes and they were growing fast. And because of the limited rainfall, I watered about twice a week until week 7. And it was around this time when I went overseas and left the potato plants to fate, really. I gave our 2 boys instructions to water them at least twice a week. But I have a suspicion that they might not have been as diligent as I usually am. And when I got back, you can see this is what it looked like. All the potato plants had died. So I don't know if they kept on going for that 12 weeks at least, and then slowly died off like normal potatoes do, or if when I left they weren't getting any water and they simply died prematurely because of the lack of water. Anyway, whatever, it's week 14 now, so it's been over 3 months and 2 weeks, and so the only way to find out if this has been a success or not, and to compare it to that other harvest of the surface laid potatoes with the mulch on top, the only way we're going to know is if I dig them up. So let's go do that now. Let's start at this end. It shouldn't be too deep. There you go, that's promising, the first fork. These can be all different types of potatoes too, by the way. They weren't just one variety. I could see an old spent one here. You can see the spent one, it's just the skin that's left. And the return, that's quite nice. Here's one that I forked through. Anyway, that'll be eaten tonight then. There's a fair few little ones again. I might as well keep the small ones. Might as well take the opportunity to get rid of this nut grass as I'm digging through the bed, to get rid of as much as I can of it. Some more good ones. Nothing to sneeze at. What do you reckon, Bella? Oh, that's more like it. Look at that. Fantastic. That one's no good, rotten. Big, healthy worms in here. It's good to see. I'll have to cut this fella out. Cut it down nice and deep. There we go. That can go into the compost. Oh, yes, striking it good in the middle here. Look at these. Wonderful collection of spuds. Lovely. Wow. All right, here's something interesting. This is a rat or a mouse hole, probably a rat. And I can see that they've been chewing on some of these potatoes that have been lifted or pushed to the surface, or maybe they've dug them up, probably more like dug them up. And they've bit into them, but they haven't really gnawed on them because they probably don't like raw potato. That's probably all it is. I know rodents will eat the sweet potatoes, they love them, but raw spuds, normal potatoes, they probably don't like them as much. They probably eat them if they're desperate. I'm not going to cook it up for them, but you can see the teeth holes in it. It's probably a rat. Obviously he didn't dig them all up. See this nutgrass? They call it nutgrass because there's the top of it, and then underneath it just doesn't have a root system like normal grass. It's got these series of nodes that it creates. These little nodes, heaps of them. And then when you pull the grass normally and you don't like dig it up properly, you pull it and it'll just break off like that, and it'll leave a node underneath the soil, or 10, and that there will grow another shoot. It's terrible stuff. But the other interesting thing is, I've seen this several times now digging in this bed, the nutgrass is actually embedding itself in potatoes. See that? It's growing into the potatoes, using them as a feed, like a fertilizer. Mongrel thing. Look at that, that root has grown right in. What an invasive grass. The spuds down this end of the bed, they're not too bad, but they're not as good as this side to the middle here. I think that these banana trees here in winter, because the sun was low, I think this side of the bed didn't get as much sun, and that's why you're seeing the potatoes smaller and not as many right at this end. Having said that, these aren't too bad. Pretty good, really. Happy with that. Another bonus. Well, I didn't expect to get a lot out of that last corner there, but I'm happy to get some. There we go. That's one whole bed dug. Boy, I'm not used to digging. Been away on holidays, I did a lot of walking, not much digging. Good exercise. Look, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's have a look at them, and we'll weigh them as well and just check to see, well, how many kilograms, pounds we get out of it. I remember in the last harvest, for the ones that were surface laid and then mulch put on top, I remember there was quite a lot of rotten spuds. In this harvest there were hardly any. I've got 3 here that were obviously grew and then rotted, and I can tell here there's quite a lot of big ones. So I turned a whole bunch of tiny inedible potatoes into how many kilograms or pounds of really good quality, hard, delicious, organic, and that's important, especially these days when you know that no pesticides or no chemicals, no fungicides or anything has been sprayed on these or put into the soil. So you're eating a really good quality vegetable, and a starchy vegetable too that most people love to eat, and that's wholesome and fulfilling. And that these days you still pay quite a bit at the store for, and often you're getting rubbish old ones that go green in a week because they're already 6 months old. You know, a lot of the spuds you buy in the supermarket aren't fresh. They're old. They're giving you the old harvest. These ones here, they're going to be fresh for 3-4 months, going to last us, and then I will replant all the small ones again. Maybe not in this bed, but I'll replant them somewhere else in the garden. I think twice in a row is probably enough, because you don't want to attract too many rodents and other pests like nematodes to start to get too plentiful in this bed. So I'll grow something different in here this next time, probably through summer. Okay, got my scales. Let's put these spuds in this bag and see if I can lift it. I mean, sure, if I just planted all commercial seed potatoes in this bed, I probably would have got a much better harvest. But I don't need to buy commercial ones. These are essentially for free. Okay, finally got all these spuds in here. I hope I can lift this. Oh, that is heavy. This only goes up to 22 kilograms. Yeah. What did that say? All right, let's weigh the other half. All right, this better work. Otherwise, you're going to get spuds all over the ground. Success. Bend knees. That one is like 26 or 12 kilograms. What's that say? So 12 plus 14 is 26. Yeah, 26 kilograms. On that note, I'm all spudded out. I've spud in, you might say. I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give it in. Anyway, so 26 kilograms, over 50 pounds of potatoes for such a crop of, remember the start was dilapidated ones. I'm pretty happy. Actually, I'm really happy. We're going to have some good feeds out of this and another crop to plant next season. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you share it around because it helps my channel out heaps. If you did like it, give it a big experimental thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Cheers. I think I'm just fatigued. Like I said, I haven't done any digging for about 5 weeks. It's taken its toll. I need to eat some spuds to get some energy back. Now I've got to pack them all back in.